Welcome, everyone. Congratulations, you've made it to almost the end of DevOps without burning out. Yay! It's amazing to see so many people in this room, and I'm a little scared at that because did you notice what the title of this talk is? It is a talk about burnout and stress management. I am Heather Wilde, and here's a little bit about me. If anyone's been to my talks before, you'll know that this is the slide I hate talking about the most, but it's also very important, anyone that ever gives a presentation, to have a slide like this, because if you don't talk about yourself first, then no one else will ever talk about you. So this is a little bit about me. I was one of the early employees of Evernote. I was number 8 there. I worked at Spirit Airlines early on. I'm a fractional CTO. I work for 6 different companies as a CTO. I'm the only female advisory board chair of an engineering school in the world at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I win awards for all sorts of stuff all the time. I have columns for Forbes, Inc., and Tech.co. And I'm on the road about 250 days a year for my companies and for other things, and I'm pretty much an expert in burnout. So just to let you know that the person that is giving this talk has a lot of experience in what they are talking about. And on top of that, what I don't have on there is I am also a certified coach in 5 different modalities. So along all this path, I actually took time out to go and learn how to be a coach. I have background in NLP, not this kind, but neuro-linguistic programming, and 4 other types of coaching. So I feel it's very important to work on yourself so that you can help others. So we're going to start out by talking about just what is stress. Like, what in your mind do you think of when you think of stress? Anyone? Screaming, okay. Anyone else? Crying, great. Pressure, okay. All of these things are associated with stress because stress is the body's automatic response to any physical or mental demand that is placed on it. We live in a stress-filled environment that either breaks us or makes us cope with life's mundane ordeals. We cannot avoid stress. We cannot avoid it. Situations arise on a day-to-day basis which make physical and emotional demands on us. And another thing that has changed in our world recently is that we have little computers tied to our bodies pretty much that are constantly reinforcing this stress reaction on a multiple times a minute basis. There's decisions that constantly need to be made consciously and unconsciously, deadlines that need to be met and lessons that need to be learned, and all of these are contributing to stress on the body. The stress response was originally a fight or flight response, marked by the outpouring of epinephrine in the brain and the body, and neuroepinephrine from inner or adrenal glands. And this increases your heart and respiration rates. So this mobilizes sugar and fat production in the body, and it dulls pain. So stress is actually supposed to be a good thing in the body. It's supposed to be a short-term kind of reaction that your body has. And the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland also respond to stress by triggering your adrenal glands to secrete glucocorticoids, otherwise known as cortisol. So there's actually things in your body that your body is meant to be under stress for short periods of time. But it doesn't matter whether we're at work or play. Stress is the driving force that keeps us on our toes and ensures that we push ourselves to be the best we can be. And after a bereavement or a divorce, work is the 3rd biggest cause of stress. So over half of all workers believe that stress is damaging their health and impacting people's health and well-being. Also, it damages your relationships. As you see, you can only be in stress for a certain amount of time before it leads you to exhaustion. And I'm guessing that's why all of you are here and some of you are sitting on the floor, because you want to find out how to deal with that. Now, as I just said, adrenaline is caused naturally in the body to help us respond to stress. So stress is natural. It's what we respond to feel under pressure. But the symptoms, if you are prolonging that, include anger, anxiety, difficulty sleeping, loss of appetite. Stop me if you know all these things. Breathlessness, chest pains. People under prolonged stress are at a greater risk of health issues. And as people, as a society, we're under greater stress than ever before. But not all stress is bad. Because we have two different main kinds of stress. There's distress, which is what you are automatically thinking of when you think of stress. Distress is when your body is feeling that anxiety and anger and sadness and wanting to scream. But eustress is when you're feeling happy for too long. So first off, I want you to start thinking, we're going to talk about eustress, the good stress. And then we're going to go into managing bad stress. So eustress is positive. It's things that energize us, things that are short-term and can improve our performance. So like when you start a new job, that's stressful, right? But you're excited, it energizes you. You want to go to that new job, but you don't know what's going to happen, but there's that energy around you of ooh, I don't know what's going to happen. Or the feeling that you get wanting to know what's going to happen this week on Game of Thrones. That's positive stress, right? And when you're moving into a new home, you know there's going to be things, the toilet's going to break or something's going to happen. Or when you buy a new car, you know that there's going to be a first accident, and there's that little bit of positive stress about it. But there's things that are positive stresses and not negative stresses. Having a new child. Anyone waiting expectantly for a baby right now? No? Usually there's somebody in this room. Or maybe you don't know about it yet, and that's a positive stress. So with eustress, it just like with distress, you can have it on one side, you can have too little eustress, and then you have a lack of motivation to do anything, because if you're too happy, then you don't feel like going anywhere. Now, it's when you have that balance in the middle that things are okay. But when you start tipping over into too anxious, that you are close to your baby being born and you're checking every single day, you're constantly carrying the baby bag and waiting for it to be born. So I see some smiles in the audience, so I know that has happened. Or you don't know when that client that you have a delivery for is going to call you and ask for yet another change. That's when it starts to go into distress. So some stress is bad, and that's distress. When you're constantly walking around feeling unpleasant, when there's that sense of dread that you have every day, and you don't have any energy to get up in the morning. And this lack of energy is different from the I'm happy, I'm happy, so I'm not motivated to do anything. It's the I feel a weight on my chest, I can't get up. Does anybody know what I'm talking about when I say that? Yeah. And this starts to lead to mental and health issues. And you start to think, this seems a lot better than this. And a lot of these seem a lot better than a lot of this. So things that can cause that are the death of someone significant in your life. That is the main cause of distress. And why would that matter for work? Well, one of the things that I learned when I started coaching and started training to be a coach was that we are actually a whole person, no matter if we're at work or at home. It makes so much sense, and yet it didn't click for me before that we don't check ourselves at the door when we go to work. So something that's affecting us at home is certainly going to be affecting us at work. And if we're going through a divorce or a breakup, or our pet died, or our parents died, or even something's really bothering us in general with our friendships, we are going to have our work suffer. If there's financial challenges, if we have some kind of major injury, and not just to us, but maybe somebody in our life that we have to deal with, or our pets, these things affect us and then go outward. So all of these things become major stressors. But we're told in our society, especially as developers, that we need to just work harder. We need to shut off our emotions, and we need to just get the work done. Heads down, do work. Don't pay attention to anything else. I've found myself as a manager telling people that, especially in Silicon Valley, because we need to just get the work done. How many people have heard Elon Musk just in the past 3 weeks saying that productivity is the only thing that matters? And Amazon now is having computers be the ones that are the managers of people and firing people if they don't hit their production. So these are things, people have PTSD level anxiety at Amazon now, because if a computer is measuring productivity based on the person that's turning in the best results, then anyone at the lowest levels is immediately going to be knocked out. And you can't talk to an AI and say, I'm sorry, my mom died, please let me have this week off so I can deal with it, or this month, or this 6 months off. No, all it cares about is numbers. So what are these stressors that we have to deal with? Things that cause us stress are called stressors. And they're different from one person to another. So something that can cause you stress, and I mean you as in Y-O-U, is going to cause somebody else will be totally fine with that. As a CTO, I'm totally fine in a security breach situation. Critical stuff like that doesn't bother me at all. Other people completely crumple when that stuff happens. But if it's an emotional kind of thing, I have no idea what to do. I go into a logic loop because it just doesn't make any sense to me. So things that cause stress are different for everyone. And here are the top 10 stressors for people. So lack of control is an inability to influence decisions that affect your job. So this is your schedule, your assignments, your workload. These things can lead to job burnout. And so could a lack of the proper resources you need to do your work. Unclear job expectations. If you're unclear about the degree of authority you have, or what your supervisor or others expect from you, you're likely to feel uncomfortable. Dysfunctional workplace dynamics. Perhaps you work with an office bully, or you feel undermined by colleagues, or your boss micromanages you. These are very big stressors. A mismatch in values. If your values differ from the way your employer does business or handles your grievances, then you will find more and more stress over time at that situation. And that'll cause resentment, which will cause even greater stress. A poor job fit. If you take a job just for the paycheck, that's just the kind of thing that will cause a lot of stress over time, because that's not the right fit for you. Extremes of activity. So if you're on a roller coaster kind of job where sometimes you have nothing and sometimes it's a lot of activity, and then you just have no idea, you can't predict it, that's very stressful. Lack of social support. If you feel isolated in your work and in your personal life, like if people are bullying you. This is a huge kind of thing. And lastly, if you have work-life imbalance, if your work takes up so much of your life that you have no time for yourself, then that is a major stressor. Most of us have experienced stress. We understand it. At some point in our life, we felt it. We're probably feeling it right now in some aspect of our lives, not necessarily work. There's probably, it's Friday, so for most of you in here, it's probably a payday. And you're probably thinking about how many bills you have to pay, how little left, if any, of your paycheck is going to be there. And then there's the idea of mad money, which is the little bit that's left over already that won't be left over on Monday, and then you're mad because you don't have that money anymore. So finances are a huge cause of stress. And then you go to work, and then you don't have any more money. So that's just one example of the things that could be causing you stress. But what could push you into burnout? Too much stress. Job burnout, specifically, is an extended period of time where someone experiences exhaustion and a lack of interest in things, resulting in a decline in their job performance. Now, that is the clinical definition of job burnout. And a lot of burnout has to do with experiencing chronic stress. In those situations, the demands being placed on you exceed the resources that you have available to deal with the stressors. And those resources could be financial, they could be time, or they could be whatever, other kinds of resources that you might need. So for example, at work, if you're being given a lot of tasks to do and you simply don't have the time, the skills, the energy, or the people to do them, then these are all going to cause job burnout. For example, at Amazon, if their AI has been tuned to only pick from the highest producers, then everyone else that is not the highest producer is going to burn out because they don't have the ability to be that fast. Think about in your own company. The people that check in the most things in GitHub are generally not the best coders. But if you're reviewing everybody based on how many check-ins you have, then the people that are the best coders are probably going to get fired pretty quickly because they're not checking in as often. So what are the signs? Now, this is pretty standard. The signs of burnout that I'm about to go over, I want to be very clear. You may notice them in yourself, but usually it's easier to notice them in other people. And the reason that this talk is really important is, one, if you notice it in yourself, that's awesome. Please start to do something by the end of this talk. But if you notice in someone else that they have any of these signs, it is very hard once you've gotten to the level of burnout to pull yourself out of it. So, if you notice these signs in someone else, please go forward and talk to them, because people need an accountability partner to get themselves out of burnout. It is really difficult. It is like uber depression. It is very hard. Has anyone here suffered from burnout before that they know of? Yeah. How hard was it to come out? Yeah. Okay. Did you have someone that helped?
In my case, it was a few months, and indeed I recognized it afterwards. I didn't realize it at the moment. I just thought that, oh, it's a bit stressful, but it's nice, it's challenging, it's a good job, the responsibilities. I realized only after I had some really serious health issues that got me to stay home for a few days.
So what she said was that she realized afterwards, after she had serious health issues, that she had gone to the level of burnout. So and that she felt it was very challenging, and she saw that as a positive, and that's very good. So the first sign that we're going to talk about is you feel tired all the time. And again, these are the clinical definitions of burnout. So you need to have at least 7 of these for you to be clinically diagnosed as someone who has burnout. Okay, so if you have 7 of these or more, please notice this. Or if you know someone that has 7 or more. We're getting to the super serious part of this talk. Okay, so you feel tired all the time. You are very fatigued and you don't know why. It's to the level of you just keep hitting the snooze alarm over and over. You're taking naps in the middle of the day when you don't normally do that, and you are just exhausted. You don't want to do anything. No matter what somebody suggests to you, you're just not interested, especially in things that you were interested in before. If you were super psyched about all of the Game of Thrones episodes and now there's only 2 left and you don't care, that might be a sign that something's wrong. If you are somebody that loved going out to the pub every Friday night with your buddies and you're just not into it anymore and you can't figure out why, that could be something. I mean, if you have a baby, that's a different story. But if you just don't have an excuse, if you can't justify to yourself why you don't want to go out, that's what we're talking about. You become even more of a disillusioned cynic than you already were. We're all developers here. I know we're all snarky. We're all cynics. We're all sarcastic. But when you start to get mean, and you start to going over the edge and get a little bit more offensive and you don't know why, and people start to pull away from you because of it, that's what this is. And your brain just stops working. You get something called brain fog. So burnout and chronic stress can interfere with your ability to pay attention and concentrate. When we're stressed, our attention narrows to focus on the negative element that we perceive as a threat. And in the short term, this helps us deal with the problem at hand, but our bodies and brains are designed to only handle things in the short term. So when stress becomes chronic, this narrow focus continues, and we have difficult paying attention to anything else. The fight or flight tunnel vision can negatively affect your ability to solve problems or make decisions. And you can find that you're the more forgetful and you have more trouble remembering things the longer this goes on. Your work starts to suck. It just starts getting worse and worse, and you could have been the top performer at work, and then suddenly every review goes down. You're turning things in later and later and later. You're missing things that you wouldn't have missed before. You start not using Oxford commas, all sorts of things. But just, if you're not sure that this is burnout kind of level, just compare your current work and job performance to performance in previous years. And burnout tends to happen over an extended period of time. So taking a long-term view can help you to analyze whether it's just a temporary thing or it's chronic. So if it's like 3 months, then you may not be able to tell. But if you look back over a couple of years of how you've been doing, then you'll be able to see like, oh yeah, this has really gone down. And any of the data scientists in the room will appreciate that. You can't be around people. You just can't deal with them. Everybody just starts to irritate you, and it plays out in a couple of ways. You could be having more conflicts with people, so every time you see them, you start to get into a fight, or you withdraw, and you start talking less to your family, your coworkers, your spouse, your partner. And you could find that even if you're physically present somewhere, you're just tuned out. And I can see some nods in the room that one hits home. So then you stop taking care of yourself. I'm not going to spoil it, even though I'm allowed to, but anyone who's seen a recent Marvel movie may know that there's a character that let this happen. And when suffering from burnout, some people engage in unhealthy coping strategies, like drinking too much, smoking, being sedentary, eating too much junk food, not eating enough, not showering, not getting enough sleep, self-medicating. And I mean, in America, that's a huge problem. I don't know how big it is over here, but I'm sure you've all heard about the opioid crisis we have over in the States. And people rely on sleeping pills to go to sleep. And they drink more alcohol at the end of the day to de-stress. And then they'll drink a Bloody Mary in the morning to wake up. And then more coffee throughout the day. And it becomes a never-ending cycle of just constantly putting kind of stimulants in your body just to make it work. And then you get preoccupied with your work because you don't have anything else. Because all your brain can do is focus on one thing, right? It's got that brain fog, and you figure, well, I might as well just focus on the thing that's paying my checks because I've got the financial stress on top of me, so I can at least try and fix that, right? So I focus on work, and then the way that you can tell this is you talk about your work all the time. Every other thing out of your mouth is about your company, or about your job, or about what's going on with the people at work, if you even notice the people at work. When I was at the worst parts of my major burnout, every other word out of my mouth was Evernote. Nobody cared about Evernote that I talked to, but they politely put up with it because it was the only way they could connect with me. I even wore Evernote t-shirts and Evernote socks and my Evernote jacket and had my Evernote book bag, and it was I just lived Evernote. I even had my husband and my sister-in-law working with me in the company, so my family was merged in. There was no way out of that. And work was interfering with my ability to recover. And in order to recover, you need to take time for yourself after work tasks stop. There needs to be a definite break, and that doesn't happen if you're preoccupied with work. Nothing makes you happy. This is the tendency to feel less happy and satisfied with both your career and home lives. You could feel dissatisfied or even stuck when it comes to whatever is going on at home, in the community, and your social life. And a lot of times when people come to me with this, they'll express it like, I don't know what will make me happy. I thought this would. They'll go on trips. They'll go do things that were on their bucket list. They'll try going to shows. They might even try taking drugs or doing something just to feel something. And they don't. So nothing will change that feeling. And then lastly, your health starts to suffer. Because when you're not taking care of yourself, you're not sleeping, you're doing anything you can to try and feel something, and you're not letting your body relax after work, your health takes a turn. And this can be it can create real health problems like digestive issues, heart disease, depression, obesity, and other things. For me, my health got so bad that I ended up with cancer. Now, stress does not cause cancer. I want to make that clear. But if you are predisposed to cancer, your immune system can become low enough that it can develop. So if you hear people saying, like, I was so stressed I got cancer, that's what happens. That if you are genetically predisposed to get cancer, that kind of thing can happen, or fibromyalgia, or any of these kinds of diseases. What it does is it lowers your immune system and causes your body to give you whatever type of thing that you might get in the worst case scenario. So some of you may just be stressed, or know somebody that is just stressed. And that's why it is important to know that burnout is like over the edge of stress. With stress, you've got over-engagement. With burnout, it's disengagement. You're done. You don't care anymore. Stress is reactive, and you're angry and you're acting out. Burnout, you're distant. Stress, there's urgency and hyperactivity. And burnout, you're helpless. You don't know what to do. Stress, loss of energy. Burnout, no motivation. Stress, anxiety. Burnout, depression. And stress is physically tolling, but then burnout is emotionally tolling. Do these make sense? Yeah. So when you've got burnout, here are things just on one screen so that you can take a picture of it for those of you that care about that. Like just the kinds of things that you'll feel. Physical problems, you'll get sleep, appetite, headaches, emotional problems, anxiety, depression, and mental, forgetfulness, lack of concentration, etc. So all of these things happen when you have burnout, but there is something you can do about it. So if you are burned out, what you can do is, or if you are on the road to burnout, you can fix this with stress management. And some people talk about stress management in a like woo yogi kind of way that a lot of us are turned off by, because we are, for the most part, logical engineer kind of people, and we don't. And I mean, many of us, a lot of us work out, a lot of us do that kind of stuff. But when people start coming in and saying touchy-feely kind of stuff, we turn off. So when I talk about stress management, I'm going to give you very specific things to do that are not necessarily meditating. So why should you practice stress management? Well, it's going to improve your immune system. So if you are low, like if your immune system is low, then it will get better because it just does. You're going to have less risk of illness. You're going to feel better every day. You're going to feel more relaxed. You're going to sleep better. And you'll be amazed at just how much better you'll feel just with better sleep, better digestion, and you'll be better focused at work, and you'll do better. And being better at work will alleviate a lot of the stress you're feeling in the first place. So it's a never-ending cycle, right? So what do you do? All right. First off, chill out. Easier said than done, right? I mean, whatever is stressing you, whether you take up meditation, listen to music, read a book, take a walk, or visit with friends and family, just think about what it is that makes you feel most relaxed. Like, just take some time to figure out what takes you to your happy place. And maybe that's like being in your shower with the curtains drawn and just screaming in the middle of the night. So it doesn't matter. Whatever it is that makes you feel better, do that. At least once a day. And if you think if you think the screaming thing is a joke, look it up online. Primal screaming is a thing. It makes some people just feel better, and that's their happy place. For me, I actually use a game called 2 Dots to just mindlessly play a little video game, and when I need to chill out, that's what I do. Figure out what it is for you that makes you calm down. You don't have to be meditating if that's not your thing. Create some sort of life outside of work. If you don't have something outside of your job, do something now. Turn to the person next to you if you don't know them, introduce yourself, and you got a new friend. Go out and hang out with them somewhere. If you live somewhere else, awesome, you got a pen pal. But you need to have some kind of life outside of work. When I was at Evernote and I got cancer, if I didn't have a support network, if I hadn't already done the work by that time to create a support network outside of work, I probably would have gone farther over the edge than I already was. But thankfully, I'd already started to volunteer in my community, and I had a good base of friends that supported me and helped me through all that. But how I got there in the first place was difficult. It could be hobbies or sports or fitness activities or volunteering like I do. But as long as you have something where you can completely turn off and not take your phones with you, because that's also important. Because, I mean, if you're taking your source of stress with you to your volunteer or your de-stress activity, then you're not really helping yourself very much. Then this will help. Get enough sleep. How much is enough sleep? Correct. So the amount of sleep that you need is whatever you need. How do you know what that is? Your body will tell you. Sleep until you wake up. How can you do that if you have to wake up for the office? Go to bed earlier. If you are staying up until midnight and then you have to wake up at 6 a.m. to catch the train, then you need the alarm to wake up, right? Try going to bed at 6 p.m. for a few nights in a row, and then your body will wake up at 6 a.m. for you. Then you'll be able to go to bed at midnight and wake up at 6 a.m. without the alarm, because your body needs to catch up on sleep. Anyone that says it doesn't need to catch up is slightly incorrect. Once your body is rested, really rested, then it will tell you exactly how many hours it needs. And usually it's somewhere between 4 and 7.5 hours. And as we get older, we need less sleep. So by the time you hit 55 or so, you'll only need around 4 hours of sleep. Get organized. I am terrible at this. The way that I get organized is I throw everything out and have nothing. I basically live out of my backpack. For other people, that wouldn't fly. But it's like when you're burned out, people spend a lot of time worrying that they'll forget something. Anyone have that problem? Yeah. The easiest way to not forget something is have nothing on your list. So if you clear your head, put together a to-do list, and remember that priority means one in Latin, then if you only have one thing that you have to do constantly, then you will not forget stuff. You'll get organized, and then you'll be able to do things. And you won't have to keep thinking about all of the things that you might have forgotten because you have systems in place to get them done. Super important, notice stuff. So it's important to tune into precursors of any conditions and patterns that you might have, physical signs, like actual signs that might trigger you that you're under too much stress. So things like more headaches that you might be under, tight shoulders that you have, a stiff neck, more frequent stomach upsets, somebody glaring at you with their resting bitch face, that kind of stuff. In terms of mental health, burnout affects depression, and if you're depressed, that can also affect your level of burnout. So it goes both ways. If the issues you're struggling with are really serious and getting worse, you may need to seek professional help. And when you go to that person, it's always good to have data, right? So here's what I do. Every single day, I write down how I'm feeling on a score of 1 to 10. And at the end of each day, I do this. And also, I write down if there were anything that triggered me that day. Like if I felt, like if there was anything I noticed, like I got a migraine and I noticed right before I got the migraine that I was doing repetitive tasks on my computer, that kind of thing. Like I was copying and pasting a lot or something. And then over time, you can see, well, what happened today? What caused this thing? How was I feeling? Over time, you'll see like, well, I had a lot of days that were 4s. I had a lot of days that were 10s. I had a lot of days that were this. What was going on over that time? And what can we do with data? Well, we're engineers. We do a lot of stuff with data. But unless we have the data, we don't know what's going on. So by using this by logging things, by actually taking the time to notice it, then we'll be able to tell what's going on with ourselves. And then actually find that cause. Because now that you're logging stuff, you'll be able to tell what's going on. Sometimes it's motivated by internal factors. And sometimes it really is something external. So in the first case, you need to ask yourself, where is this stress coming from? And once you figure out where the stress is coming from, then you can work through it and maintain internal resources to keep yourself motivated, and then do your best at work and function better. But some burnout really is because of what's happening at work. And we all know, like, you could have a bad manager, you could have a terrible client, you could have a company that is about to go under or go through a merger or something. So all things like hiring freezers and M&As and cut work hours and things like that, they are huge stressors. So when there's more demands and fewer resources, there's not really anything that you can do about it, except sometimes you just have to walk away. Knowing when to leave a job that's a poor fit or that's causing you undue stress. It may be time to just leave, even if you don't have anywhere else to go. Because if you are in the worst possible version of yourself right now, how would you be to present yourself to a new potential employer? Like, how can you possibly find a new job if you're not at your best? And I know that, like, everyone's always saying you can't get a new job unless you already have a job. It's really difficult. But if you aren't your best, then you're not going to get a new job anyway. So sometimes the best thing to do is leave, work on yourself, and then try again. So some resources to help you with all of this. If you've recognized any of these symptoms in yourself, whether they're stress or burnout level, or if you think that you've recognized them in somebody you know, like maybe that you haven't heard from in 3 months or so, you should probably check in with them. Headspace is a great app. Does anyone in here use it already? Yeah, good. It does 10-minute quick meditations every day, just to clear your head, and you don't need to be sitting cross-legged to do it. Stop, Breathe, Think is also similar. And Sleepbot is an app that tracks your sleep for you, so that you can install that and it'll tell you how well your sleep is going. And it also has it wakes you up with your circadian rhythms in the morning. So even if you do have to wake up for an alarm, it'll wake you up at the best possible place in your REM cycle to do that. Do nothing for 2 minutes is exactly that. It challenges you to do nothing on your computer for 2 minutes. it'll take you a while of practice to be able to do that. Usually people are not very good at exactly that. Noisely is a white noise generator. Calm is also. And 7 Cups is a site where you can find counseling from volunteers around the world, just somebody to talk to. It's just 24 hours a day. There's people on there just like you who are there to talk. So if you need somebody anonymous to just vent, or they're not necessarily licensed counselors. They're just people like you that are there to talk to, and it's not a dating site. And if you need help, I am a licensed coach, but I also know quite a few of them. So you can reach out to me, and I can point you in the direction of someone that can assist. Because if it is very important to get professional help if you are at the burnout stages. And while I am not a doctor, I can refer you to somebody that can help you. So, any questions? No? All right. Well, thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate you spending the end of Devox with me. Right now, or in 4 minutes, there will be a talk over in the gallery, in the auditorium, and I hope you go to see that and close out the show. But thank you so much for coming, and please pay attention to your health.